From where you sit, the business is moving. Work is getting done. Nothing feels broken. And when things are moving, it's easy to assume you're still in control of direction. But there's a difference between a business that's moving and one that's being directed. And that difference shows up in how much pressure you're absorbing, how often you're interpreting instead of deciding, and whether the business still runs without you. Because long before any performance breaks, your leadership will start compensating. I was a top-performing wealth advisor, leader, and executive in the wealth management industry for 23 consecutive years, building and running multi-billion-dollar businesses. So what are you going to learn today? 1, why your leadership direction can slip before your results do. 2, where your judgment, adaptability, and standards will get tested. 3, what to examine so you'll know whether your success can last. And 4, what you'll gain when your business is built with structured discipline. Once your success settles in, pressure starts showing up at 3 specific places. First, it's your judgment. This is how your direction actually forms, and whether you're leading from what's underneath the business or reacting to what appears on the surface. Second is adaptability. This is whether your success will hold when the environment that supported it starts moving. And third is your standards. What stays intact when reinforcement, urgency, and expectations begin to shift on how your results get produced. And we're going to walk through all 3. So let's start with judgment. Your success creates a quiet trap for you, so your business keeps moving, and you'll assume the way you're running it is what's keeping it stable. From you, the service looks clean. The updates you get are very clear, and the system tells you what you need next. And to you, it starts feeling like direction. But most of what passes as direction to you is just reaction. Your reaction to what's surfaced, your reaction to what the system flagged, your reaction to whatever showed up last. And over time, that visibility replaces your understanding. Your team, they start running the drivers. You track the results. Reporting becomes where you see the business. And because outcomes still can show up, it feels like leadership to you. But that gap, it doesn't change. It just repeats. Not because people aren't executing, but because you're seeing outcomes, not the mechanics underneath them. And here's some areas where it shows up in work. You're reviewing pipeline, but you can't tell what's actually driving it or what will reproduce in the next quarter. The markets that you manage that require different approaches start getting managed the same way. Even your partners, when they start behaving inconsistently, you can see it, but you can't trace what they're responding to or why. And when gaps surface, you feel them immediately, but you can't point to where they originated, who owns fixing them, or what decision upstream would prevent them from coming back. And at that point, you're not directing the operation, you're responding to whatever surfaces next. The business, it keeps moving, but movement gets mistaken for progress because no one is actually deciding how the business is supposed to run. And your judgment, it's not the only place where success starts leaning on you. Success doesn't break when conditions change. It stretches you. The environment shifts. Firm priorities above move, and expectations stay exactly where they are. And to you, nothing fails. But the effort required to keep results steady, it quietly increases. And this is where your adaptability gets exposed. When your business model is tied to current conditions, every change creates pressure. Execution slows while direction catches up. Your involvement increases just to keep things moving. And you feel it in your role first. What used to run without you now needs your presence. Decisions that once held start needing interpretation. You'll spend more time stabilizing than building, not because the work changed, but because the model did. And you'll see this mostly from leaders who operate from the past. They'll stay aligned to what's directly in front of them until they're forced to change. They manage year to year, adapting only when pressure shows up. And there's no broad model underneath the business, just alignment to whatever currently is working. And when roles and strategies shift, they end up learning alongside their teams instead of ahead of them. Because adaptation happens in real time. Preparation isn't always there, and performance becomes tied to specific products or strategies that are still favored. Execution narrows around what's performing, and the operating mix gets lopsided. Strong where incentives exist, but thin everywhere else. Results still show up, but only in the lanes that conditions continue to support. And the business, it's not built to absorb change. It depends on continuity to function. And even when leaders keep delivering, something else starts slipping, and that's your standards. Because your standards don't get tested when direction is clear. They get tested when direction keeps moving. And this is not about refusing what's asked from above. Most leaders don't lose standards by pushing back. They lose them by aligning early. And over time, you see leaders come and go who learn how to read what's wanted and match it quickly. They deliver what's required. They stay in step with whatever the current direction is. And on the surface, that looks like leadership. But what they stop doing is building a way of operating that's theirs. And each new shift resets how they lead. Each new priority reshapes how decisions are made. Nothing carries forward long enough to compound. And from the team's view, this is where confidence starts slipping. Not because results drop, but because the way of working keeps changing. because people don't know what good actually means anymore. They don't know what holds when pressure shows up. They don't know which parts of the work are non-negotiable and which ones will move with the next shift. And over time, trust erodes quietly. Not trust in outcomes, those still show up, but trust in the leader's point of view. Because when everything is aligned upward, nothing is anchored. And there's a middle ground, meeting expectations while you're embedding them into your own thinking. When direction from above gets integrated to how you operate, not layered on top of it. But when leaders never do that, standards don't collapse all at once. They just thin out. And eventually the leader's reputation becomes defined by alignment instead of how they make decisions. So the real question to you isn't whether this is happening, it's whether you can see it clearly in how you operate. So let's start with judgment. Don't assess the activity in the business. Assess whether you're still the one making direction. And when results show up, can you explain why they look the way they do? Or are you relying on updates and summaries to tell you after the fact? And when priorities shift, are you setting the sequence or reacting to what surfaced most recently? And even when decisions stack up, are you choosing what matters most or letting urgency decide for you? And when gaps repeat, can you articulate where they originated? Who owns resolving them and what decisions you failed to make upstream that allowed them to persist? And if you can't do that, the business isn't lacking motion, it's lacking your judgment. And what about your adaptability? When conditions change, don't evaluate the environment. Evaluate your ability to carry the business through it. When markets shift or performance softens, can you keep results steady? Or does momentum stall until you change direction? When priorities move from above, does your understanding already exist? Or does it form only after pressure shows up? When your role changes in practice, can you maintain consistent execution? Or do gaps appear because you are compensating in real time? And when the firm has changes they want, are you positioned to lead immediately? Or does performance depend on how fast you can catch up? And look closely at where your results are coming from. Is your success broadly supported by the model that travels or concentrated in a few areas still favored by conditions or incentives? Because if change exposes strain, the question isn't whether change happened, it's whether you were built to lead through it. And that leads us to your standards. As direction shifts, don't ask whether you're aligned, ask whether you're still recognizable. When new expectations show up, are you integrating them into how you operate or replacing your point of view with someone else's? And when pressure tightens, does your decision still feel consistent or situational? When your team looks to you under stress, do they know what you'll still hold or only what you'll still adjust to? And then ask yourself this quietly. If someone watched how you led through change, could they describe what you stand for or only what you're aligned to right now? Because your standards aren't tested when things are stable. They're tested when you are required to deliver and adapt at the same time. Because you decide whether your direction is something you actively design or something you infer from whatever shows up next. You decide whether judgment is explicit or whether your adaptability is built into how you operate and whether your standards stay intact when expectations shift. And if you don't make these decisions deliberately, they don't stay neutral. They drift. And over time, your leadership turns to adjustment instead of direction. So the question isn't whether you understand this. It's whether you decide to lead differently now that you see it. Every week, I break down the real strategy behind top performance for wealth advisors and leaders ready to operate the level they've been built for. This is EliteVate. We cut through the fluff, no hype, no theory, just strategy, psychology, and execution. If this hits home, subscribe. You're not just watching and learning. You will become the model others follow.